Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the UES Hyperion, watching the massive alien vessel approach through the darkness of space. Its biomechanical hull seemed to pulse with an inner light, making the ship look more like a living organism than a constructed vessel. After 6 months of careful diplomatic dancing, the Galactic Concordat had finally agreed to a formal meeting with humanity's representatives. Beautiful, isn't it? Dr. James Rodriguez, the mission's chief xenologist, joined her at the window. His weathered face reflected both excitement and concern. Though I can't shake the feeling that they're being too accommodating. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the approaching ship. The Concordat had appeared seemingly out of nowhere 8 months ago, offering humanity membership in their Interstellar alliance. The promise of advanced technology and protection had seemed too good to be true. Perhaps it was. Command's latest report came in, Sarah said quietly. 3 more mining outposts have gone dark near the Arcturus sector. No distress signals, no debris. They just vanished. James's expression hardened, just like the others. And still, the Concordat claims no knowledge of any hostile forces in those regions. The ship's AI, spoke through their neural implants. Commander, Director Walsh requests your presence in the strategy room. Priority 1. Sarah straightened her uniform. Time to put on our diplomatic faces. The strategy room was a stark contrast to the rest of the ship's utilitarian design. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing real-time data from every sensor array on the Hyperion. Director Elena Walsh, Earth's chief diplomatic officer, stood at the center table, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. We've detected some interesting anomalies, Elena said without preamble. Dr. Patel, show them. Dr. Arun Patel, the team's quantum physicist, manipulated the holographic display. We've been analyzing the Concordat's transmission patterns. There's something hidden beneath their standard communications, quantum encrypted data streams that don't match any known protocols. Could it be some form of advanced propulsion telemetry? James asked. Arun shook his head. No, these patterns, they're too complex, too directed. They're targeting specific systems across our defense grid, probing for weaknesses. Sarah's hand instinctively moved to the neural interface at the base of her skull. They're gathering intelligence, right under our noses. It gets worse, Elena added. We've decoded fragments of their internal communications. The Concordat isn't what it appears to be. They're not looking for allies. They're looking for resources, and not just material ones. The holographic display shifted, showing a map of human space. Red dots marked the locations of the disappeared outposts. When overlaid with the Concordat's supposed trade routes, a pattern emerged. They're testing our responses, Sarah realized. Each disappearance is carefully calculated to see how we react, how we adapt. Precisely, Elena confirmed. And now they want to send a cultural exchange delegation to Earth itself. We can't refuse without raising suspicions, but we can't allow them unrestricted access either. James leaned forward, studying the data. What about the other species in the Concordat? Are they willing participants or victims? Both, we think, Arun replied. Some species serve as enforcers, while others are clearly under some form of control. The technology they've offered us, it's not just advanced, it's designed to create dependency. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. The neural interfaces they provided for enhanced communication. Could they be used for more than just data transfer? Elena's expression was grim. Our cybersecurity team has detected subtle attempts at neural manipulation through the interface protocols. Nothing overt yet, but the capability is there. So what's our play? Sarah asked. We can't openly confront them. Not yet. We're still too vulnerable. We turn their game against them, Elena said, her voice hardening. They think we're primitive, easily manipulated. They don't realize that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt and overcome. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Through the viewport, the Concordat vessel had drawn closer, its biomechanical hull now casting shadows across the Hyperion's observation deck. "Dr. Patel," Sarah said, breaking the silence, "how quickly can you reverse engineer their quantum encryption?" A slight smile crossed Arun's face. "Give me 72 hours. We'll need to modify our quantum cores, but I think I can crack their basic protocols." "Do it," Elena ordered. "James, I want everything you have on their biology, their social structures, their weaknesses. Sarah, prepare your team. When the delegation arrives, we need to be ready." As the meeting dispersed, Sarah lingered, watching the alien ship through the viewport. The Concordat thought they were dealing with naive newcomers to the galactic stage. They were about to learn that humanity's apparent weakness was its greatest deception. In the darkness of space, the first moves of a cosmic chess game were being played. The pieces were set, the strategy in motion. And humanity, despite appearances, was not playing to lose. Deep beneath the Martian surface, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Commander Sarah Chen watched as Dr. Patel's team tested their latest breakthrough. The quantum core they developed pulsed with an eerie blue light, mimicking the Concordat's encryption patterns perfectly. "The beauty of it," Arun explained, his eyes bright with excitement, "is that they won't detect our intrusion. We're not just copying their technology, we're improving it." The underground lab was a maze of improvised equipment and jury-rigged interfaces. Earth's best minds had been quietly assembled here, working around the clock to turn the Concordat's own technology against them. "How soon can we deploy?" Sarah asked, watching as the quantum signals danced across the monitoring screens. "We're ready for Phase 1, Arun replied. "The modifications to our defense grid are complete. Every probe they send will feed them exactly what we want them to see." A holographic display showed the current positions of Concordat ships throughout human space. Their presence had increased dramatically over the past month, always under the guise of cultural exchange and technological assistance. Dr. Rodriguez entered the lab, accompanied by an unusual figure, a tall, insectoid alien with iridescent scales. Unlike the Concordat representatives, this one moved with a nervous energy. "Commander," James said, "meet Crix. He's taken an enormous risk to help us." The alien's multifaceted eyes studied Sarah with an intensity that suggested both intelligence and fear. "Your species," Crix clicked through the translator. "You are not what they expected. The others, they were easier to subjugate." "Tell her what you told me," James urged. Crix's antennae twitched. "The Concordat's control systems, they're not just in their shared technology. The neural interfaces are only the beginning. Each species they elevate is slowly modified, generation by generation. Biological changes, subtle but profound." Sarah's hand unconsciously touched her neural interface. "Modified how?" "Dependency," Crix explained. "They engineer weaknesses, physical and psychological. My species, we can no longer reproduce without their medical technology. Others require specific compounds found only in Concordat-controlled systems. Each chain is different, but the purpose is the same. But they haven't had time to implement such measures with humans," Sarah noted. "No," Crix agreed. "That's why the neural interfaces were rushed into distribution. They needed a faster method of control. Your resistance, it's unprecedented." Director Walsh's voice came through Sarah's secure comm channel. "Commander, we have a situation. The Concordat delegation is requesting an inspection of our lunar defense installations." Sarah exchanged glances with Arun. "Perfect timing. Let's show them exactly what they expect to see." The next 12 hours were a carefully choreographed dance of deception. While the Concordat representatives toured carefully prepared lunar facilities, the real work continued in hidden labs across the solar system. In a secure briefing room, Sarah met with her specialized team. Captain Maya Torres, Earth's foremost expert in adaptive warfare, pulled up a tactical display. "We've identified 3 distinct factions within the Concordat," Maya explained. the dominant species, who maintain control through technological superiority. The enforcer species, modified to be dependent and loyal, and the newly inducted species, still in the early stages of subjugation. Like us, Sarah added. Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. Maya highlighted several star systems. The enforcer species aren't as loyal as they appear. Our probes have detected quantum communications that don't match concordat patterns. They're talking to each other outside official channels. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. Crix isn't the only one looking for a way out. The concordat's control isn't absolute. It's based on carefully maintained dependencies. Break those chains, and the whole system collapses. Sarah finished. How many potential allies are we looking at? At least 3 species have shown signs of active resistance, Maya replied. They're subtle, careful, but they're there. The Enxtheri have been stockpiling restricted materials. The Verdeni are developing biological countermeasures. And the Kethera? The Kethera are the key, Crix interrupted. They maintain the concordat's quantum communication network, if they could be turned. Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. We need to make contact, carefully. Each species that joins us increases our chances of success, and decreases the chances of our survival if we're discovered, Maya cautioned. We're already at risk, Sarah countered. The concordat's plan for humanity is clear: subjugation or extinction. At least this way, we choose the battlefield. Director Walsh's voice crackled through the comm again. Commander, the delegation is satisfied with their inspection. They're requesting a meeting to discuss expanding our partnership. Sarah smiled grimly. Tell them we're eager to deepen our cooperation. In fact, we have some new proposals to discuss. As the team dispersed to their stations, Sarah remained in the briefing room, studying the galaxy map. Humanity had entered the cosmic stage as apparent newcomers, seen as primitive and easily controlled. But centuries of survival on Earth had taught humans one crucial lesson. Adaptation wasn't just about technology. It was about understanding your opponent, finding their weaknesses, and having the courage to act when the moment came. The Concordat thought they were slowly tightening their grip on another conquered species. They didn't realize they were actually reaching into a trap, carefully prepared by those they had underestimated. The real question wasn't whether humanity would resist. It was how many others would join them when the time came. The Concordat's flagship, Eternal Dominion, hung in high orbit above Earth, its crystalline spires gleaming in the sunlight. Inside, Commander Sarah Chen smiled politely as High Administrator Vexthar detailed the latest technological gifts they planned to bestow upon humanity. The massive alien's translucent skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns that Sarah now recognized as signs of smug satisfaction. Behind her, Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. Patel maintained equally pleasant expressions, their modified neural interfaces feeding false data streams to the Concordat's monitoring systems. Your species' enthusiasm for advancement is commendable, Vexthar purred, mandibles clicking. These new industrial replicators will increase your production capacity tenfold. We're honored by your generosity, Sarah replied, her words carefully chosen. Humanity is eager to prove our worth to the Concordat. As Vexthar launched into another condescending speech about galactic unity, Sarah's real attention was focused on the quantum encrypted message streaming through her enhanced neural interface. Captain Torres's team had successfully infiltrated the flagship's lower levels, using access codes provided by their Kethera allies. The neural dampeners are in place, Maya's message confirmed. When the time comes, their command and control systems will be blind for exactly 6 minutes. Sarah maintained her diplomatic smile while sending an encrypted acknowledgement. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out as Concordat representatives delivered their latest gifts to colonial administrators. In the Mars facility, Director Walsh coordinated with resistance cells from 3 different species. The Enx-theory had smuggled quantum disruptors into key Concordat installations. The Verdini had released engineered spores that would disable the biological components of Concordat ships, and the Kethera themselves had planted subtle backdoors throughout the communication network. Your adaptation to our technology has been remarkable, Vexthar continued, gesturing to a holographic display of Earth's defense grid. Though, of course, there's still much room for improvement. Actually, Sarah said, checking the countdown timer in her neural feed, we've made some improvements of our own. Vexthar's bioluminescence flickered with confusion. Improvements. Computer, Sarah called out. Initiate Protocol Phoenix. The ship's lighting suddenly shifted to a deep red. Vexthar's mandibles clattered in alarm as the holographic displays went dark. Throughout the vessel, security systems began failing in a cascade of carefully orchestrated chaos. What is the meaning of this? Vexthar demanded, his translator struggling with the sudden emotional shift. Consider it a demonstration, Sarah replied, dropping the diplomatic pretense. You see, while you were busy analyzing our weapons and defenses, you forgot to consider our greatest asset, human ingenuity. The massive doors to the command chamber sealed shut as Maya's team emerged from hidden positions, quantum disruptors trained on the Concordat guards. Similar scenes were unfolding across the flagship as human operatives and their alien allies revealed themselves. Impossible, Vexthar sputtered. Our systems are impenetrable. We're impenetrable, Dr. Patel corrected, his fingers dancing across a holographic interface. You gave us the tools to understand your technology, expecting us to use them as designed. Instead, we improved them. Through her neural interface, Sarah watched as the carefully planned operation unfolded across human space. The quantum communication network, backbone of Concordat control, was being reprogrammed by Kethera technicians. Enx-theory saboteurs were disabling weapon systems. Verdini spores were spreading through life support, ready to incapacitate but not kill. You don't understand what you're doing, Vexthar warned. The Concordat maintains order. Without our guidance, the galaxy will descend into chaos. No, Sarah countered. What you maintain is control through dependency. But humans don't seek to control. We adapt, we innovate, and most importantly, we cooperate. The ship shuddered as its quantum core was redirected, cutting off the Concordat's ability to call for reinforcements. On screens across the command center, reports flooded in from other human colonies and resistance cells. The simultaneous uprising had caught the Concordat completely off guard. Director Walsh reports success at all primary targets, Maya announced. The Concordat's command structure is in disarray. Their enforcer fleets are standing down or joining the resistance. Sarah approached Vexthar, who had sunk into his command chair, his bioluminescence now a dull flicker of disbelief. Your mistake was thinking that technology alone determines superiority, but strength comes in many forms. The ability to trust, to form genuine alliances, to innovate rather than control, these are the real measures of advancement. The other species, Vexthar muttered, they were content with their place. They were imprisoned, Dr. Rodriguez interjected. But unlike you, we recognize them as equals, not resources to be exploited. That's why they chose to stand with us. Through the command center's viewport, Sarah watched as more ships appeared. Vessels of various designs representing the combined fleet of the resistance. The Concordat's era of dominance was ending, not through overwhelming force, but through the power of cooperation and human adaptability. Secure the command codes, Sarah ordered, and send word to all resistance cells. Operation Trojan Horse is a success. Phase 2 begins now. As her team worked to consolidate their control of the flagship, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. The Concordat had seen humans as primitive, underestimating them at every turn. They never understood that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or technology, but in their ability to unite, adapt, and overcome. The real war was just beginning, but the first decisive blow had been struck, and it had come not through brute force, but through the very qualities the Concordat had dismissed as weaknesses. The war room aboard the captured flagship Eternal Dominion, now renamed Unity, buzzed with activity. 3 weeks had passed since Operation Trojan Horse, and the galaxy was in upheaval. Commander Sarah Chen studied the tactical display, where thousands of ships moved in complex patterns across contested space. The Concordat's response is more aggressive than anticipated, Captain Torres reported, highlighting a cluster of red indicators. They've activated sleeper cells in 3 sectors. We're looking at major fleet movements near the Arcturus corridor. They're desperate, Dr. Rodriguez observed. Their entire system of control is unraveling. The Keth-era defection hit them harder than they expected. Sarah nodded, watching as another cluster of indicators shifted from red to green. The Enxutheri battle groups, freed from Concordat control, were proving to be formidable allies. Their crystalline ships, once tools of oppression, now protected liberation fleets. New intelligence from the Verdani network, Director Walsh's hologram announced, materializing beside the tactical display. The Concordat's ruling council has retreated to their core systems. They're implementing what they call the final protocol. Explain, Sarah demanded. They're activating kill switches in all their distributed technology, Walsh continued. Every system, every piece of equipment they've ever given to other species, they're trying to shut it all down remotely. Dr. Paddle laughed, drawing surprised looks. Let them try. We've been replacing their control nodes with our hybrid systems for months. The more they push, the more control they lose. A massive explosion bloomed on the tactical display as a Concordat dreadnought attempted to activate its self-destruct sequence. Instead, its quantum core had been redirected, the energy harmlessly dissipated. Their weapons are turning into their weakness, Maya observed. Every failed attempt to assert control just proves to their remaining allies that they've lost their technological edge. The ship's AI, now freed from Concordat restrictions and enhanced with human innovations, spoke up. Multiple reports coming in. Enforcer species across 3 sectors are declaring independence. The Concordat's attempt to activate their kill switches has failed in 89% of cases. Sarah turned to Crix, who had become their primary liaison with other liberated species. How are the rehabilitation programs progressing? The insectoid's antennae waved with what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. Better than we dared hope. The human approach to technological development, sharing knowledge, encouraging innovation rather than dependency. It's revolutionary. Species that have been stuck in stasis for generations are beginning to evolve again. Incoming transmission from the Verdani Collective, the AI announced. Their bioengineering teams have successfully reversed the reproductive restrictions the Concordat placed on 4 species. They're requesting permission to share the treatment protocols across all liberated territories. Grant it immediately, Sarah ordered. Make sure every species has access to the research data. Knowledge stays free. A warning klaxon sounded as new contacts appeared on the tactical display. A massive Concordat battle fleet had emerged from quantum space, heading directly for Earth. Well, Sarah said, studying the formation, looks like they're ready to commit their remaining forces. Time to show them what real cooperation can achieve. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships of every design and species converged on the threat, moving with coordinated precision that would have been impossible under the Concordat's rigid control. Human tactical innovations merged seamlessly with alien technology, creating battle strategies the enemy couldn't predict. They still don't understand, Dr. Rodriguez mused, watching the battle unfold. They see all these different species working together and think someone must be controlling them. That's why they'll lose, Sarah replied. They built an empire on control and dependency. We're building an alliance on trust and mutual advancement. The battle that followed would later be known as the breaking point. The Concordat's fleet, despite its impressive size, found itself facing opponents who adapted faster than they could react. Human strategic innovations, combined with the unique capabilities of each allied species, created an ever-shifting battlefield that negated the enemy's technological advantages. Anx-30 crystal ships phased through Concordat defenses, their crews working in perfect sync with human tactical officers. Verdani biological weapons disabled enemy systems without harming the crews, allowing for capture rather than destruction. And throughout it all, the Cathera enhanced communication network kept the Alliance moving as one. Enemy flagship is attempting quantum retreat, Maya reported. Their remaining vessels are breaking formation. Don't pursue, Sarah ordered. Let them run. The message is clear. The age of the Concordat is over. As the enemy fleet fled, leaving their damaged ships behind, Sarah received reports from across human space. The attempted technological shutdown had backfired spectacularly, as liberated species discovered they could not only maintain but improve upon the Concordat's gifts without their former masters. Director, Sarah called to Walsh's hologram, "I think it's time to implement the Phoenix Protocol. Show them what happens when you try to use technology as chains." Walsh nodded, a rare smile crossing her face. "Sending the activation codes now. Every piece of Concordat tech we've modified, every system we've improved. They're all coming online with our upgrades. Let's give the galaxy a demonstration of real technological advancement." Across known space, systems the Concordat had designed for control began transforming, their true potential unleashed by human innovation and multi-species cooperation. The very tools meant to enslave were becoming instruments of liberation. The Concordat's throne world of Axis Prime loomed before them, its artificial rings now dark and powerless. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Unity, surrounded by representatives from 24 liberated species. The final confrontation had arrived sooner than anyone expected. "Their defense grid is active," Captain Torres reported, "but it's running on old protocols. They can't risk using any of the systems we might have compromised." "Which is practically everything," Dr. Patel added with a hint of pride. "They're fighting with one arm tied behind their back, using technology from 3 generations ago." The tactical display showed the remaining Concordat forces clustered around their capital, a last desperate concentration of power. But it was what they couldn't see that made Sarah smile. The fruits of human innovation and multi-species cooperation that had transformed the galaxy. Message from the Concordat High Council. The AI announced. They're requesting negotiations. A ripple of surprise passed through the bridge. Crix's antennae twitched. In 10,000 years, they have never negotiated. They only dictate terms. "Times change," Sarah replied. "Put them through." The holographic image of the Concordat's ruling council materialized. 9 beings of different species, all modified and enhanced to the point of being almost unrecognizable. Their supreme leader, a towering figure of biotechnology and crystalline implants, spoke first. "You have proven resourceful," the supreme leader admitted, each word seemingly painful. "Perhaps we were hasty in our assessment of your species." "This isn't about humanity's capabilities," Sarah responded. "This is about the fundamental flaw in your entire approach. You built an empire on dependency and control, never understanding that true strength comes from diversity and cooperation." "Our system maintained peace for millennia," another council member protested. "We uplifted countless species." "You enslaved them," Dr. Rodriguez countered. "You modified them to be dependent on you, stripped away their ability to innovate, to grow. That's not upliftment, it's imprisonment. Look at what's been accomplished in just months of genuine cooperation," Sarah continued, gesturing to the assembled representatives. "The Anx-30 have rediscovered their artistic heritage, creating technologies that blend beauty with function. The Verdani have cured diseases you claimed were untreatable. The Cathera have evolved their quantum communications beyond anything you imagined possible. And humans?" The Supreme Leader asked, "What do you seek to gain from this revolution?" "Understanding," Sarah replied simply. "Every species has unique perspectives, unique solutions. By working together as equals, sharing knowledge instead of hoarding it, we all advance further than any could alone. A noble sentiment, the supreme leader said, but naive. Without central control, chaos will. The transmission suddenly cut off as massive energy signatures erupted from Axis Prime's surface. Emergency alerts blared across the bridge. They're activating something big, Maya warned. Energy readings are off the charts. It's their final weapon. Cricks clicked urgently. The one they always held in reserve. A quantum cascade that can rewrite the laws of physics within a star system. They would rather destroy everything than lose control. Sarah's response was immediate. Initiate protocol unity. Across the Allied fleet, systems came online that had never existed before. Human theoretical physics made real through alien technology, improved by the combined insights of multiple species. As the Concordat's weapon reached its peak, it met something entirely new. The space between the fleets seemed to fold, the quantum cascade being drawn into contained bubbles of altered spacetime. Dr. Patel's voice was triumphant as he monitored the readings. It's working. The containment fields are holding. Their weapon is being redirected into pocket universes. The power requirements, a council member's voice crackled through the failing transmission. It's impossible. No, Sarah corrected. It's what happens when you let people work together freely. The quantum containment fields. Human theoretical physics combined with Einstein crystal technology. The power generation. Vertani biological systems working in harmony with Cathera quantum networks. No single species could have done this alone. They watched as the Concordat's ultimate weapon sputtered and died, contained and neutralized by the combined achievements of those they had tried to keep dependent and divided. Their planetary shields are failing, Maya reported. Defense systems are offline. All ships, hold position, Sarah ordered. No attacks. She reopened the channel to the surface. Members of the Concordat Council, your weapon has failed. Your system of control is over. But unlike you, we're not here to conquer or subjugate. We're offering a choice. The Supreme Leader's voice was barely a whisper. What choice? Join us. Not as rulers or servants, but as equals. Share your knowledge freely. Learn from others. Grow beyond the limitations you've placed on yourselves. Help us build something better than an empire of control. A galaxy of innovation and cooperation. The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then, one by one, Concordat ships began powering down their weapons. On the surface, defense systems deactivated as the Council made their decision. Hours later, Sarah stood in Unity's observation deck, watching as ships from dozens of species moved freely around Axis Prime. Already, teams of scientists and engineers from different species were working together, sharing insights, solving problems that had seemed insurmountable under the old system. It's really over, Dr. Rodriguez said, joining her at the window. Though in many ways, it's just beginning. Sarah nodded. The real challenge starts now. Building something new, something better. Not through control or dependency, but through genuine cooperation. And humanity's role in all this? Maya asked. Sarah smiled, watching as a group of Einstein crystal ships performed a graceful dance with human vessels, their crews practicing joint maneuvers just for the joy of learning from each other. We'll do what humans have always done best: adapt, innovate, and most importantly, bring people together. Not to control them, but to help everyone reach their full potential. As if to emphasize her point, a new star seemed to bloom in the distance, not a weapon or an explosion, but the first test of a revolutionary faster-than-light drive, developed through the combined efforts of 6 different species. A new age of exploration and discovery was beginning, built on the foundation of trust and mutual respect that humanity had helped forge. The Concordat had thought humans were primitive, easily controlled. Instead, they had become the catalyst for a transformation that would reshape the galaxy, not through superior force or technology, but through the simple yet powerful idea that true strength comes from working together as equals.